week 22 of 50, colder. Everyone who has signed up for $4.22 a month or more at patreon.com/DGAF poker player got a lead up to this episode yesterday. It just showed up for them on the Patreon app and wherever they have pasted their personal RSS feed, including Spotify now. So a little note on this. This is a public drop. Therefore, you don't have to pay to get it. But I think you have to sign up on Patreon, and you can sign up for free to get the public drops. This is not a decision I made. It's a decision Patreon made. They stopped working with my previous podcast host, and so now everything goes through them. So you can get the public drops for free still, but I think you have to sign up on Patreon. It wasn't intentional. Anyways, lead-ups are private drops of sessions on which I share everything that goes on in my life when I'm not at the poker table. They're typically much more intimate than the public drops of sessions. And according to hundreds of patrons, many of whom have been listening to this podcast since 2018, lead-ups are the best mental escapes available in audio form, perfect for commutes, workouts, walks, or just trying to fall asleep after a busy day. If you too want the intimate stuff, then you got to commit to that 422. But wait, there's more. For that 422 a month, less than one big blind for most of you, you also get access to all 8 seasons of sessions. And at that point, you'll never be left with nothing to listen to again. You don't have to listen to every drop of sessions to get caught up in the story. You can simply pick and choose the titles that look interesting to you, and that should do the trick. But wait, there's even more. Included in that $4.22 a month, less than a gallon of gas in California. You also get membership to Patron Discord, the platform where sessions listeners from all over the world go to have discussions and share their stories. They also play poker together, bet sports together with no vig, and some buy pieces of me when I play poker, with no markup, which in theory is a really nice perk. But for a while, it hasn't been. Anyways, you can check out all the details of all the perks that come with each subscription tier at patreon.com/DGAF poker player. Okay, last the patrons heard. In that lead up, had another tough week, but a good ending to it. On Sunday, June 1st, my daughter, a freshman in high school, played varsity basketball this year. Had an interesting season and is playing AAU currently, and she went off in a tournament game. Her confidence had been down. She had a bad day of games the day before, and I did that parenting job, and she got sleep, good sleep. That's so important for kids, and she fucking cooked. She led the team in points and assists. I was mad she didn't lead the team in rebounds and steals as well, but that's okay. In the lead up, I highlighted a dagger 3 she hit to get the W, and it was just a good moment, so I was feeling good about that. And then I came up to Long Beach for my poker week, so I come up here and play poker and commentate and do some stuff, or do a lot of stuff for the show, and some of it at Lucky Lady. And when I talk about the show, I'm talking about Lucky Lady Casino Live, one of my startups. And anyways, me and Miss Scorsese went to dinner, and then I wanted to start a 5-5-10 game at Hustler, but the old floor man didn't want to do it, and I just felt like leaving him alone. So I went to Gardens, and I want to play the bounty game, but I'm going to start in a 5-5-10 game. And it's, I believe, 200 to 800. Maybe it's 300 to 800, I don't know. But 800 is the cap. And so it's pretty, that's short stack poker for sure, especially since the straddle goes on quite a bit. Now we're talking about 40 big blind cap. And my first note, I write notes on my phone. If you ever see me playing poker and have my notes out, the thing on the iPhone, I'm documenting my session for this podcast. The first note is the level of play is very low. So it's kind of a time warp at Gardens where you just see stuff that you used to see that was really bad a decade ago. But the thing that's changed is people are way tighter. They're just, I don't know. They're just tight with their money. They just knit it up, even if they're bad. And it's hard to get in there when you're short stack because you can't really maneuver too much post flop, can you? Well, I finally got in there. My first VPIP, someone opened to 45. So it's 5-5-10. They opened to 45 and someone called. And I called them the button with 10-8 offsuit, which is debatable. If I'm playing online, I just fold. But I'm playing live and I need to fucking get in there. And I didn't flop anything. I folded. Next thing that happened, which felt like way too long later, someone limped and I made it 60 with ace-9 of spades. And he called. And it came queen 10-9 and he checked and I checked back. And the turn was a jack and he checked and I bet 60 with bottom pair. Obviously, I was the pre-flop raiser. I have the ace-king. I don't know if this guy cares at all. And I don't know if it's a spot where I should be even bluffing. I'm not just one and done. Obviously, I'm betting 60 to bet a lot more on almost all rivers. But he just folded and he probably just had a small pocket pair. So it's just one of those. It's nice to win a pot. It's not a big pot. It's like $60 that you win. And it's, it's just, you're bluffing with probably the best hand. But if he calls, then you apply max pressure on the river, whatever. I folded Jack 5 suited. This is the difference between public games and private games. Private games, you're going to want to get in there with pretty much anything that looks like a hand, almost anything suited or, a connector or whatever. But I watched the hand unfold and I would have turned a combo draw and I would have made a backdoor flush against someone else who made a smaller backdoor flush. Damn it. So I'm not results oriented, but I am a human being. I got nothing else to do but watch what would have happened, and I would have won a fat pot for the game. Sitting there with fucking $800. Nothing that's going to move the needle in my life, but, a good start to the session. But it wasn't, I folded pre-flop because we're not deep enough for me to open that hand. And, it's just not the game to do it. But I did put the straddle on, and I defended with king-jack offsuit. Just one open, defended with king-jack offsuit, and the opponent was kind of like the Dr. P of the Gardens. He looks kind of like a doctor, just looks like successful, got his shit together in life, but is also kind of a poker pro, so he's like the doctor pro over there. And it comes ace-7, I check, he bets 50, and I call with king-jack. And then the turn's a king, I check and he checks, and the river's a 7, and I bet 100, hoping to get a crying call, and he raised to 400. Okay, I just folded. I just don't think they're bluffing very often in these nit ball games. Of course, I didn't see his hand, but he didn't do anything for a while after that, and then, played the nuts again. So I think it was a good fold. It's just kind of a weird hand. It's not fun to run into a boat, but you're going to run into boats if you go out in the ocean or play poker at the Gardens. All right, I got pocket queens. I raised, and one of the few action players called out of position. It came 8-7-4, and he led. And I just raised. He had a nub stack, and we just got it in. And I turned a set, and I don't think I needed it. I turned over my hand, and he looked on the flop, and he looked like he was in trouble. And 8-7-4 queen jack. I stack him, and I'm up $200. I'm up $200. So I ordered a bottle of Cristal, not only for my table, but for every table in there. No, I folded king jack offsuit to one raise. because it was a nit ball, and he had ace queen. I don't know. It's just you're not folding king jack offsuit to one raise in a curated lineup, but you are in public games sometimes. And then someone opened, and everyone called, and I called on the button with 4 deuce of hearts, and it got back to the guy in the blinds, and he went all in, and he was tilted. He had lost to someone, went all in for $300, and they all folded their $40. Well, now I'm getting like 2-1 on a call here, and I think this guy's wide. I said, "You want action, man?" It's just one of those spots where, like, yeah, you never have the best hand with 4 deuce, but I am old school. I read Theory of Poker a million years ago. I learned about pot odds, and when it's plus EV to call, you call. And I think it's really close. It's probably slightly plus EV because it's 260 more to call, and there's about 520 in there. So against his range, you need 33% equity, and I think he's shoving just about anything here. So I called. Close. If he said he didn't want action, I would have folded. And he had 9-8, and he won. So what? I put the double straddle on. That's one thing you can do in these games is, yeah, they're too short stacked to, open a bunch of hands. But if you can make them super short stacked, you can find spots to jam. I don't know. Same guy raised to 140, folded back to me, and I had 6-5 of hearts in the $40 straddle. And I just doubled them up, and I called. And so there's 300 and something out there, and he has 460 behind, and it comes 10, 5, 4 with 2 clubs and a heart. And I just decided to open jam. It's like 1.5 pot. That's all we got. I flopped a pair, and he thought for a bit, and then he called, and he had pocket tens. He flopped top set. So I was basically drawing to run a runner, straight or flush, and didn't happen. And then he went for a walk. I turned his 300 into 600, then his 600 into 1200, and then he wanted to go for a walk. And this is very much a public game. I got a text from Miss Scorsese that she had already gotten stacked. And she sent me a picture of the board, and I was thinking, probably shouldn't have got stacked there. And I don't know. And this guy went for a walk. It tilted me. I'm a competitive person. I don't like losing. And I don't like running into it all the time. And I felt the tilt coming on, and I was trying to avoid that. I said at the end of the lead up that my thought going in was be chill, because I used to be incredibly chill at the poker table, but as stressed and overworked as I am, I'm no longer chill. When adversity arises, I tilt, and it's just the story. I wish I didn't, but it's just like a dark place that I go to. I could feel it coming on. I'm not there yet. I'm just, stuck, stuck a buy-in. And the 20's on, and there's a bunch of limpage, and I make it 100 with 2 sevens. And this guy AW limp jams, and I call. He has 500. I'm stuck 800 or 1,000. I call his 5. I made it 100. He limp jam, and those are his initials, AW, and his name was Awesome Whale. He was the guy that was all in every hand. And so I'm obviously calling with sevens, and he turns over king 9 offsuit, and the door card's a king. Okay. Then sometimes I write stuff in my notes to try and chill out when I feel the tilt coming on. And I wrote, chip runner, oh chip runner, where art thou? I already seen the chip runner a bunch of times, and I tweeted something dumb about how I'm going to tip you the first 3 times, but not after that. And then I just had to fold for a while. And so a bad start, which if you've been running decent, these doesn't mean shit. But when you're desperate to come out of a fucking year and a half long downswing, it's tilting. And I wrote, this is dog shit. Just folding. And then I raised with pocket jacks. And I lost $400 to AW. Awesome whale. He called. It came King 9 deuce. He led whatever. Called. Queen. He led. I have a pair and a gutter. Called. And then the river's a brick. And he led. And I decided he had me beat. And I folded. I lost 400 in that hand. And now I'm the 20. 5, 5, 10, 20. They all limp. I make it 200 with pocket fives. Old 10x job. And only the guy that I took from 300 to 600 and 600 to 1200, and he went for a walk. He's back from his walk. Only he calls the 200. Okay. The flop comes ace 7-4 rainbow. I bet 200. And he went into convulsions. Oh my God. This guy flopped a fucking set. I know it. The turn's a king. I check, and he goes all in. I'm almost positive he flopped a set of 4s, if not 7s. And this is tilting. Everything is blowing up in your face. You're running into it every single time. I stacked the one nubber with queens, but every other hand has been lame. I guess I won with ace 9 on queen jack 10-9, but that was a nothing pot. But all the real pots I played, I'm running into it. And I'm starting to go to that dark place. I can feel it. And I wish it wasn't true. And I got to keep playing. And AW, even though he keeps beating me, he's losing to everybody else. But they limp. I make it 100 with ace jack offsuit. AW jams. He limped and jammed again. Remember he had king 9 offsuit the other time. I'm certainly calling 500 here with ace jack offsuit. And he has pocket aces. Okay, what the fuck? So he wins that. And just like that, I'm down $2,500. And I'm looking for the chip runner. Where art thou? And my stack is $225. $225. And someone limps, I make it 50 with jack 9 of spades. And now the Doc Pro, the Dr. P of the Gardens, makes it 200. And I look at my stack, it's $225 to start. I put in 50 and fuck that, man. Here, I'm all in for 225. He calls. I say, you have aces? I'm joking. He says, he nods his head. Yep, turns over 2 aces. I made a flush though. So I got to double up from 225 to 450. Okay. And then I flopped a top pair, good kicker on a pretty draw heavy board. And guess what I ran into? Another set. And so I got that little nub double up, and then I was felted. And it's chip runner, where art thou? I need you again. And finally, I just bribed the floorman to start a bounty game shorthanded. Get me out of here. So we started a bounty game, and it's me and how many pros? Me, 2 pros, and a rec player. And I know that everyone I was just playing with will follow me over to this game. And we start with a bomb pot, 4-handed. And I have 10-9, and everyone puts in 25, and the flop comes out, it comes 9-8-5. And one of the pros, this nice young pro, bets small, and the rec player calls. The other pro, his name's Dan. I'll tell you about Dan in a bit. He folds, and I call with top pair. So there's 100 in there, and the guy bet like 40. The rec player called, I called. And the buy-in is 800 in this game as well. So there's 220 in there. And it's 985. I have 10-9. The turn is a 10. And it puts two spades out there. I have top two. And now the pro checks, the rec checks, and I bet 150. And the pro goes all in. And the rec folds. And I almost folded. I have top two in a four-handed game in a bomb pot. The guy led small on 985, checked when the 10 came, and there's two spades. I think he could have plenty of draws here. Could have worse two pair. But that was like me thinking too much. My first instinct is just fold. You're running into it. And I called, and he had 7-6. He flopped the nuts. And it's just almost too cliche. Running into the nuts. These fucking pros always having the nuts. You'd see Mariano on stream. Well, there's little Marianos everywhere. But I liked this pro. He was cool. But it's just so cliche that I get stacked the very first hand at the bounty game. And now Dan, on my right, seed hops. Another rec player comes, sits on my left for my game. AW, Awesome Whale, comes. But now Dan, seat changes to be in the 2 seat. So he wants position. And, okay, whatever. He's just I don't know his name, but he's a dirty Argentinian nit. So I called him Dan. And he acted like he was bluffing in a hand. And I knew the rec players would have my back. I said, you know what? So these grinders can't act like they're bluffing. Let's play where you have to show one card if you win a pot or you don't get the bounty button. And everyone said, okay. And so now Dan can't act like he's bluffing anymore because he doesn't bluff. So he needs to just show a great card every time he wins a pot. And I think this is a good thing to do. And we said, no, you can tell people if they forget. It's not about trying to get them to sleep a prop, but we want to see a card. And now the original rec player in this bounty game busts. And now Dan has his friend Dan come sit next to him. Dirty Argentinian nit and dirty Argentinian nit. And they are yapping so loud, talking about whatever in their language. And it's giving me a headache. And they're at the other end of the table. They're just loud, annoying, and folding every hand. And just, sniping and having zero awareness. Like, when you've been around, you cultivate a good game. When you haven't been around, you don't care. You're just sucking the fucking oxygen out of the room. And that's what these two Dans were doing. And then one of them clearly had a monster in a bomb pot. And he bet, and they're both trying to get AW to put his chips in, which isn't too hard in general, but even AW knows these guys are fucking sniping. And they're doing stuff like fake folding, and they're working together like, gamble hand, like just really gross shit. And then when it's my bounty, they're saying, when the whale's about to fold, no, defense. And I hate these guys. If I got sleep, I would understand they just are clueless new pros, grinders. But they're just not only are they ruining the vibe and one seat hopped, but they're colluding. And not in a hardcore way, but just in a lame way. And I keep running into sets at this table. And then one hand I don't run into a set. And I get the bluff through, and I forget to show my cards. I toss towards the dealer, and then I reach for them, and they say, no, once you release your cards, you can't show it, so you don't get the bounty button. And And people are like, well, no, who cares? And they're like, no, the rules are the rules. I say, oh, the rules? I say, oh, the rules are also English only. They're just speaking nonstop in their language, which I assume is just Spanish. I don't know. My head was hurting too bad. And this triggers Dan number two. And he said, oh, what? He said, I play in here for 5 weeks straight, every night. Your first time in here? I'm like, just across the table, like, good. This is what I wish someone would right now. And I'm just like looking at this guy through my sunglasses, like, you're pathetic. And like, he's trying to be angry, and he's got his buddy Dan. His name's Dan. Dan and Dan. And I'm just looking at them both. Like, what? You think it's my first time in this building? I was in this place when it wasn't a building. It was a tent. Ask someone. That's not even the point. You guys are dirty Argentinian nits. You're Dan's. And this guy does that thing where he's yelling at me, but then I'm just like staring through him and like smiling. And he's getting scared at the same time he's yelling. He's like yelling but acting. I said, man, you need to like get your anger under control, because it's not even good anger. Like, you're scared and angry at the same time. What is that? And, you know, it's I got into it with him. Grizzled vet, going to get into it with grinders, of course. When I was a grinder, I was not like these guys, but I didn't give action. And I remember Scotty Lundgren, LA legend, was a grizzled vet, and he was giving me the business. And, you know, I coolered him, of course. I was young pro, and he left. And I asked my friend, who's that? And he said, that's you in 10 years. He was on point. And that was 20 years ago, but you get what I'm saying. And I don't know. I just, you know, my story is my story. I've been up against it for a long, long time. And I love it when this guy's getting angry and also scared at the same time. And like, come on, man. Like, just get back to sniping. And meanwhile, AW has won every single hand he's played against me. Every single hand. And I decided to squeeze because I'm the bounty, and I have Jack 5 of diamonds. Okay? And only AW calls. Flop comes Queen Jack 4 with 2 diamonds. Second pair and a flush draw. And he checks, I bet, and I hope he jams. He jams on me often. He doesn't, he just calls. Okay? And the turn is a brick, and he checks, and I think my jack's good, and I got the flush draw, so I'm not bombing this pot. I'm kind of massaging it. And I bet again, and he calls, and he seems really weak. So I'm thinking he might have a 4. And the river is an offsuit king. And he checks, and now I bet really small for value with third pair. And he calls. He has king 9 offsuit. The hand I doubled him up earlier. When he had that hand, I doubled him up earlier at the other table. And this one was just hard to take. I've run into so many fucking sets and aces and straights and bullshit. When I flop a pair and a flush draw against nothing but 1 overcard and a gutter, against the guy who's losing to everyone, every hand except for me, he's beating me every hand. I wanted to win that one, but that wasn't meant to be. And then AW raised, and I called with 9-7 suited. And he checked. He checked on Queen Jack X, and I decided he didn't like this flop, so maybe he has 10s or 9s. And I just want the board to break out. I knew I was going to bluff all 3 streets. You don't always want to bluff against awesome whales, but when you know they hate a flop, you can go bet, and get it done. So I bet the flop, turns a brick, I bet it again. The river's a king, And I don't love this because I was also thinking he might have ace king. But I had to bet again in case he had, you know, tens or nines. And he had ace king. So it's just a weird way to run that. I could have made a pair, but I wasn't counting on that. I was just hoping that the board would never get less scary for him. And then this is my favorite hand of all. Another pro in the game. I don't know if he's Russian. They were calling him Russian pro, but I don't think he was Russian. But he was cool. He was on my right. And I double straddled. And he limped in. And I squeezed. Queen 5 offsuit in position. We took the cap off. And therefore, I had some chips. You know, I'm good friends with the chip runners everywhere. And I squeezed with Queen 5 because he's a pro and, you know, he just limped in. He calls. Okay, it's fine. I'm in position. Got a bloater. Let's play poker. Queen 10x. He checks. I bet. Top pair. Heads up pot in position. He puts in the call. I'm pretty confident my queen is good. And then I get the dream card on the turn. Another queen. Queen 10x. I have queen 5. I squeeze pre-flop. He called. I flop top pair. I bet. The turn's a queen. He checks again. Now I bomb. I got to use my image. I've been going hard against the two Dans verbally. And I've been running into everything. I do try and bluff a lot. So when I got trips, this is a beautiful spot. And I bomb it. And he calls. Queen, 10x, queen. The river's an ace. And I thought there was a chance he was just calling me down with ace high. You know, it's a blind versus blind pot. And so this is a pretty good card. And he checks. I go all in. And he snap calls. King jack. King jack. Okay. So look at this hand from a variance perspective. He limped king jack. I was the big straddle, the 40. He called the squeeze. Incredibly standard. And it's pretty standard for me to squeeze that hand in position. Queen 10x. He checks. I bet. Incredibly standard to bet top pair. Incredibly standard for him to call it the open ender. The turn is the queen giving me trips. He checks. I'm going to bomb here. I'm going to make it look like I'm bluffing. Well, he has king jack. He has king high. I could easily have ace fucking 2 offsuit. So I think in his spot, it's a fold or it's a play for it spot. You know, jam yourself. So when he calls, I don't think he has king jack. Because why would a pro call with king jack? On queen 10x queen. You can't do that in this spot. Paired board. Yeah, it looks like I'm bluffing, but you don't have a good bluff catcher. You have king high, not ace high. There's a big fucking difference. So I never thought he would have king jack after he called my turn bomb. And I shoved for value, and he called with the straight. And I just, that one I couldn't handle, really. I was like, well, I rarely do this. So what were you doing? You know, and it's stupid. It's just the tilt got the best of me. I wasn't like a dick to him. The Dans were very, very happy I lost this one. They were getting a lot of joy out of it. And he's just like, I thought you were bluffing. And I'm like, yeah, but you have king high, you fuckhead. Like, you should jam your king high if you think I'm bluffing, because what if I have ace high? I didn't say all this, but this guy was a nice guy. It's not running too good, is it? This hand is the most miserable hand of them all. It's another bomb pot. They have bomb pots all the time. Everyone puts in 25, put out the flop. I have pocket nines. I check on king 8-5. Checks around to Dan number 2, who bets on the button. King 8-5 with a flush draw available. Folds to me. I decide to call. I'm going to call one time. The turn's 8. King 8-5-8. I check. He checks back. The river's another 8. I have 9 eights full of 9s. I check. He bets. I don't like it. I call. He turns over a 6. And then he slow rolls me with a king. I don't care about the slow roll. I mean, this guy, I like good slow rolls. This isn't, public game is not the spot for slow rolls. But that I fucking got boat under boat against this Dan was really, really frustrating. It wasn't a huge pot, but you lose $400 to Dan. You'd rather lose $4,000 to AW. I promise you. I did have one cool hand against one of the nice, quiet pros. The guy who flopped the nuts against me in the very first hand, and then I turned top 2. Well, this is a cool hand. He raised, and I defended with queen 10 offsuit. And the flop came 10-5-5, and I checked, and he bet, and I raised. And I know that when people get raised on paired boards, they call with everything. This is just one exploit of these fucking pros. Or they continue with everything. And it's 10-5-5, and I check raised, and he 3-bet me. And I just knew I was locked in on this hand. I just knew that this was going to induce something. And so what to do here when you think you have the best hand with queen 10 on 10-5-5? You check raise the preflop raiser. He 3-bet. Well, obviously fold is out of the question. And so I went to call because I like that better if this guy is going to follow through it all. But I just know he's not. He already made his move. The continuation bet, that's fucking standard. But he already made his move by 3-betting the flop. He's not putting another chip in unless he binks something. And so if you know he's never going to keep bluffing, then you deny equity. And I just clicked it back with a 4-bet, and he folded. I thought it was kind of a cool hand. And then the last hand, they limp. I made it 200. The 40 was on. And the whale limp re-raised. And this guy's done this to me so many times. King 9 offsuit, Jack 7 offsuit. He's awesome whale. He made it 1,000. He's crushing me. And I have 1,800. I have pocket threes. I have crabs. I thought I should tell you guys I have crabs too. And he's just done it with so many hands. I decided to send it in 1,800 with threes. And he had 9s. And he won. And so, do you always want to send in 1,800 with threes? I mean, the 40 is on. It's, it's 45 big blinds. It's a lot for threes, but against this guy that's limp re-raising so many hands against me. He had aces once. He had king 9 offsuit, jack 7 offsuit, ace king. I don't know. I sent him with threes, and yet I don't know, 45 big blinds. It just was annoying. And I lost another 400. I got to tell my boss, Cal Worthington, about it later today. And if you want to know how that goes and what happens next in this impossible comeback story, you got to go to patreon.com/DGAF Poker Player. You also have to go there if you want to get these public drops wherever you listen to podcasts. You can just sign up for free, and then you'll get the public drops. You still get an RSS feed. You copy and paste it to wherever you listen to podcasts. So let's run through the goals real quick. 50-50 tilt. After 22 weeks, I'm at 9-13. Yeah, I tilted this week. I told myself not to, but I did. No makeup. Fuck. I started $61,810 makeup. I'm $80,640 in makeup. The tilt doesn't help, but it also doesn't make the cards come out the way they've been coming out. And the queen 5 hand was a big pot. Shove for value. I mean, the guy is just calling with 8 outs on the turn, out of position. That makes you a 4-1 favorite. That's like when you get all in pre-flop with aces. And he banked, and I shoved for value, and just these hands suck. Anyways, I'm ready to make up. And then the last goal is 230. Want to weigh 230 pounds or less by the end of the year. I started at 247.3. I was 222.2, I think, last week. This week, 224.1. So beating the goal, but also going back in the wrong direction a little bit. On that note, I better go for a walk. Talk to you all next week.